Do you ever drink the coffee?
Every day.
Yes.
Every morning. I think the coffee is a great deal. It's still one of the best deals in the city. That's what I come to get often. I actually travel with the Zabar's coffee. I actually take a French press, a travel French press with me, and my friends all know this. We're in the Himalayas, and the Sherpas had never tried coffee. It's a tea country. And so we had coffee after dinner, and they really, really enjoyed it. They enjoyed it so much, when we finished it, we went down to do some other things in the country, came back up about a week later. And I just brought coffee that was local from a, sort of specialty store per se in Delhi. And I served it to the Sherpas, and they said, no, we like the other one much better. And that was the Zabar's coffee.
Hi, welcome to the Zabar's podcast. I'm your host, Willie Zabar. On this episode, we're talking coffee. Also known by the street names Java, Joe, and Bean Juice, coffee is one of the most popular drinks in the world. It's a big part of our business, and for many of us, an essential part of our daily routine. I love coffee, but before we started making this episode, I didn't know that much about it. I knew that it's often brown, it's often hot, and it's often wet, but that was the extent of my knowledge. To fix this, I sat down with some people who know their way around a cup of coffee. You'll hear from co-owner and longtime coffee taster Saul Zabar, Executive Director David Zabar, and special guest Erika Vonie, who is a professional coffee expert. Additionally, you'll hear me get trained on the proper way to scoop and grind coffee beans from Eric in our coffee department. So, let's dive headfirst into a hot cup of coffee. First up, I wanted to get an overview of the different types of coffee we sell, because we have a lot. You can't really walk into the coffee department at Zabar's and say, give me a pound of coffee, any more than you can walk up to the appetizing counter and say, slice me a pound of fish. To be clear, you absolutely can do this, and the employee at the counter will help you figure out what to get. I just can't guarantee the people behind you in line will be as understanding. So to get me situated is the person who taught me to brew my first cup of coffee. All right, I'm here with David Zabar. Why don't you introduce yourself, say a little bit of what you do at the store and how you're related to me.
Okay. Well, Willie is my son. My grandfather started the business. My father, Stanley, and Uncle Saul are there almost every day. I'm there almost every day. And, my job is to see that everything keeps going. We do a lot of sampling. We'll sell a half pound so you can experiment with different coffees. We recommend getting 2 or 3 different half pounds of coffee and blending yourself to see how strong, if you like to mix, say, an espresso into more of a Colombian, and you find what level of strength you like. More people identifying what they liked and what they wanted at home. So I think the big revolution is making at home what you used to get at a restaurant. So the home espresso machines, plus the simplicity of having different types of pods. You're able to make a much higher quality coffee at home and much more easily.
How many types of Zabar's coffee can you name right now?
We have Zabar's blend and Colombian and mocha style, Blue Mountain style. The espressos are Vienna, French Italian.
That's good as a start. And Tuesdays, coffee is loaded in, right? I want to describe what the spectacle is when they deliver it.
These multi-wheeled carts are used to move product, boxes, whatever. So these are loaded up with 60-pound bags of coffee from the truck, and they're wheeled over to our basement hatch, and then by conveyor belt go into the basement of the store. And it takes 3 or 4 guys to do this every Tuesday morning. And maybe it's 100 bags of coffee. Then during the course of the week, bag by bag, it comes up a conveyor inside the store to our coffee department, where we fill orders for shipping and for customers on premises. So this is a weekly spectacle.
And they're big burlap sacks.
It's still plastic lined burlap sacks. I believe the green coffee beans come off the ship in 160-pound sacks, and then we handle them in smaller sacks in the store. We've been roasting our own coffee for more than 50 years. Saul feels it's different. It's a different taste, and I drink it every day.
Now, my dad mentioned the difference between a light roast and a dark roast. How the beans were roasted has a huge impact on the flavor of your morning coffee. This is precisely why Zabar's coffee is custom roasted. Every week, we taste samples of coffee roasted to different temperatures using a process called cupping. Saul Zabar has been personally involved in this process for more than 50 years. Here's a clip of Uncle Saul from a 2008 mini documentary called Spilling the Beans.
When I first got married, I got interested in coffee and coffee roasting and coffee buying. Every afternoon around 4 o'clock when I'm beginning to wane, I go downstairs to our cafe and I pour myself a coffee. A cup of coffee is the perfect pickup. Traditionally, we roast our coffees on Monday, and then they're brought to us Tuesday morning. So if you want to get coffee that's almost out of the roaster, visit us on Tuesday morning and ask for the previous day's roast.
The full video of Spilling the Beans is available on the Zabar's YouTube channel. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. I wanted to do something different for the next part of this episode. I figured the best way to learn about our coffee department would be to spend some time working there. So join me in a new segment I like to call Learning the Ropes.
I'm Eric from the coffee department.
How long have you been working here?
Going on my 3rd year.
Nice. All right, I'm here in the coffee department. I know I need gloves and I need an apron. Where could I find?
You can find the gloves over here.
Okay.
Extra large.
That's me.
And here goes an apron.
Awesome. So pretend it's my first day. I'm a new coffee employee. Yeah. What do you show me first?
Well, I would show you how to make a pound of coffee for a customer.
Okay.
1 whole scoop, and then a little bit more. When it's a pound, you will hit Zabar's and print. And if they want beans, you just fold it up like this. But if they want it ground, you would throw it in the grinder. We can always use number 5 coffee. We're gonna use it today. Right. Turn it off. Give it a little tap, just in case there's any like residue from the grind.
So 2011, I think it was Hurricane Irene. It's the only time in history all 3 of my brothers and I worked here at the same time. And I was in deli. Danny was kind of working the floor in general. I believe Michael was at the register and Ben was at coffee. Hey, can I help you with anything?
3 pounds of Zabar's blend, ground for 4.
Cool. So this is the Zabar's blend? This one?
No, that one.
This one, right. Okay, thanks. It's my first day. First day in this department, at least.
Smells nice.
Now this time I'm gonna put the bag underneath before I start grinding. I learned that the hard way.
You did a lot better than me, huh? I had beans all over the place.
How long have you been shopping at Zabar's?
Since 1984.
Oh, nice.
So, a while.
For our last segment, I'd like to welcome coffee expert Erika Vonie. I first heard of Erika when she appeared on the coffee episode of Basics with Babish, a spinoff of the popular YouTube cooking show Binging with Babish. We invited her to the store to see our coffee department, then followed up remotely so she could walk us through how she brews coffee at home.
My name is Erika Vonie. I've been working in coffee for over 15 years, and I'm currently an independent consultant, but I've been a barista, a manager, bought and sold green coffee. I won an international coffee competition, and I have like the coffee equivalent of a wine sommelier certificate. So coffee's kind of my life.
Are you familiar with Zabar's?
I am familiar with Zabar's.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I am too.
Shall we go inside?
Sure, let's check it out.
All right, cool. Oh yeah? It's the coffee department.
Hey, coffee department.
Hello, how's it going? So we're gonna send you home with some coffee.
I'm so
Pick whatever
excited.
flavor you want.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna ask you for your favorite or recommendation.
Sure. I'm a big fan of the Royal Blend.
Okay.
The Zabar's blend is a classic.
Yeah, I think I should get that.
And then let's ask them because they, we'll see what's popular. All right, cool.
Hi, how's it going? I'm gonna get 3 bags of coffee. Could I get the Royal Blend, the Zabar's blend, and then you drink coffee?
I like the French Italian.
Let's do that too. Yeah.
How
Easy.
do you want it ground?
I'll keep it whole bean, actually. Thank you.
Price, right?
Awesome. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
And now here's the second part of the conversation. All right. So first of all, hi, Erika.
Hi, Willie.
Good to see you at the store. Good to see you now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to see you again.
Imagine I'm an anthropologist who comes from a culture where we don't drink coffee. How would you explain the role of coffee in our society?
Ooh, what a good question. Well, my gut instinct right off the bat, I would say that coffee is a conduit for community. The coffee house itself, the cafe, has historically been a place where meetings of the minds can come together. You can meet your friends, you can meet coworkers. You just sit and enjoy this warm and energizing drink while discussing like really cool ideas.
So I know coffee is highly technical. Tell me some of the factors that impact how coffee tastes.
So coffee's variabilities begin at origin. So depending on what country the coffee comes from, what type of coffee the tree is. Like if you think of apples, you've got like Granny Smith and Red Delicious and Fuji and all these different types of apples. You also have that variety in coffee as well. The way that it's processed, all coffee is a fermented process, just like all of our favorite things like beer and wine and bread and chocolate. So how it's fermented, how long it's fermented, how long it's dried for, how long it stays in storage, all of those things affect the coffee flavor even before it gets to the roaster. I like to make the analogy of like a mixing board in like a audio engineering. So instead of just like Venn diagrams where you try to like Goldilocks it with one or two variables, there's just a ton of different variables. You could have the same coffee and have it taste wildly different based off of the way it's roasted and who's preparing it alone.
It reminds me because my dad's very into photography and he was talking about how the gelatin that goes into the film stock, it comes from cows and how depending what the cows ate, it takes a different amount of time to develop the film.
Oh.
So it sounds like a similar thing. You're like adjusting in real time based on these weird factors that are outside of your control, but you're kind of like, okay, how do I compensate for this?
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that tidbit. I had no idea.
So so when you visit us at the store, we sent you home with 3 different kinds of coffee. Do you want to walk us through the 3 different kinds that we gave you?
Yes. I'll start with what ended up being my favorite, which was the Royal Blend. Yeah, I think that you said that was yours as well.
Yeah, that's usually what I go for.
Okay, yeah. So the Royal Blend I really loved. I was playing around with it a lot as espresso. One of the things that I noticed that I really liked was that it tasted great as a shot, but then it just like rocked as a cappuccino. It had this like caramelly, chocolatey thing where like it almost tasted like a mocha even without adding like any chocolate to it. So yeah, as you can see, like you sent me home with a full bag and I have maybe like a couple shots left of it. You also sent me home with the Zabar's blend, which was great. I made that as like a classic drip coffee and I was like, this is New York's coffee. Like it's so easy to make a light and sweet out of it, and it's that like dark roast kind of hits you in the face. You're like, I like sipped it and I was like back on the subway, like commuting to work. I was like, oh yeah, this is what New York tastes like. And then I got the French Italian because that was the coffee that the guy that was working really liked.
Right.
Honestly, personally, for my preference, it was a little dark. I like something that's, bold, that has a lot of flavor, but that one was like really dark. So I made it for a friend of mine who likes really dark coffee. And he was like, oh yeah, this is the jam. Like, this is the stuff that I want. Like, you take a sip and you're like, you feel the hairs like growing on your chest a little bit. The Royal Blend that you guys have really complements milk really well. And vice versa. Like I said, like milk and coffee are best friends. Milk just adds like sugar, it adds fat, it adds texture, it adds flavor. And then when the coffee is already dope and tastes really good and it tastes like caramel and it's nice and rounded, like you put those two things together, I'd eat that ice cream flavor. I'd drink that drink, like those are all things that sound really good together. So
let's make some coffee.
Yeah, I'll walk you through how to make a cappuccino. And part of that is making an espresso. So hold on one second. I got to get a rag. Okay, so now we're going to grind it.
And which blend are you grinding right now?
Royal.
Nice.
The fave. All right, so now we're steaming the milk now. So I'm going to... Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, I did a pretty good job on that one. I wish you
Yeah,
guys. I wish you
great.
guys could
Sounded
taste
great.
it.
Well, Erika, thanks so much for doing this. And please tell everyone where they can find your stuff online.
I'm an independent consultant, but you can go to my website, www.erikavonie.com. That's ERIKAVONIE.com. I also have a YouTube, youtube.com/Erika Vonie. I haven't updated it in a while, but there's a lot of really good home coffee tutorials, like how to make a better cup of coffee on a Black & Decker machine, for instance. So that's me.
All right, great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Cool. Thanks, Willie. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. You've been listening to the Zabar's podcast. I'd like to thank Erika Vonie, Saul and David Zabar, Eric from the coffee department, and all the customers who gave us those great testimonials. Our next episode will focus on my great-grandparents, Louis and Lily Zabar, who founded the store. It'll cover their childhoods in Ukraine, how they escaped the pogroms, and the early days of Zabar's. Until then, I'm Willie Zabar, and I'll see you at the store. The Zabar's podcast is produced by Emily Cherish with sound editing and mixing by Henry Butler. All funding made possible by Zabar's.